Let's learn properties of air. Look at the picture given. The picture explains the properties of air. First, if we take a balloon, center picture denotes if we take a balloon and blow air into it, we will find that its size increases. This shows that air occupies space. First property of air is air occupies space. Second one, air also has weight. Third picture denotes air also has weight. We do not notice the weight of air because we are surrounded by it. The weight of air pushes down on everything around us in all directions. We call this air pressure. Air pressure plays an important role in our day-to-day activities. Next, if there was no air pressure, we would not be able to do certain things such as drinking through a straw or filling up fountain pens, syringes, and droppers. These are the properties of air. Air has weight, air occupies space, and air exerts pressure. These are the properties of air. Dear students, you do the activity in page number 127 and 128 with the help of your parents. Next, let's start. Take page number 129, water. Water is also essential for living. All plants and animals must have water to survive. If there was no water, there would be no life. Look at the picture. There was no water, there would be no life on earth. Apart from drinking it to survive, people have many other uses of water. The water that we use mainly comes from rivers, ponds, lakes, and wells. Rainwater is the main source of water on the earth. Often substances such as sand, dirt, mud, and germs make this water unfit for use. We call these substances impurities. What is impurities? Often substances such as sand, dirt, mud, and germs make this water unfit for use. We call these substances are called impurities. Impurities are two types. What are the two types of impurities? Soluble impurities and insoluble impurities. Soluble impurities are the ones that dissolve in water. Example, common salt. What is soluble impurities? Soluble means only the substance soluble in water are called soluble impurities, or the ones that dissolved in water. Example, common salt. Insoluble impurities. What is insoluble impurities? Insoluble impurities are the ones that do not dissolve in water. The substance that do not dissolve in water is called insoluble impurities. Example, sand and mud. Dear students, take page number 130 in your science book. Let's learn removing impurities from water. Different methods are used to remove soluble and insoluble impurities from water. What is soluble impurities? What is insoluble impurities? Soluble impurities means the substance only soluble in water is called soluble impurities. Insoluble impurities means the substance that do not soluble in water. This is called insoluble impurities. The next, how to remove insoluble impurities from water. Insoluble impurities such as sand can be removed by filtration or sedimentation. This method is used to remove insoluble impurities from water. First, let's learn filtration. In this method, insoluble impurities are removed by passing the impure water through a filter paper. All of you see the diagram. A mixture of sand and water can be separated by filtration. In the filtration method, a mixture of sand and water can be separated. First, a circular piece of filter paper is taken. Look at the picture given. A circular piece of filter paper is taken and folded twice. Twice means two. Twice to make a cone. Next, this paper cone is placed inside a funnel. Look at the picture. This paper cone is placed inside a funnel. A flask is kept below the funnel and the mixture is poured into it through the funnel. Sand is retained on the filter paper and clean water is obtained in the flask. This method is called filtration. All of you understand? The clean water is settled in the flask. Next method of removing impurities from water is sedimentation and decantation. Sedimentation and decantation involves the following steps. Look at the picture given. The first picture denotes the mixture of insoluble impurities. Insoluble impurities means sand and water mixture. For example, mud and water is allowed to stand undisturbed in a beaker. In the first step of sedimentation and decantation, the mixture of insoluble impurities, for example, the mixture of mud and water is allowed to stand undisturbed in a beaker. Look at the first picture. Then the next step, after some time, the mud settle down at the bottom of the container as sediments. These containers are undisturbed. After some time, the mud settles down at the bottom of the container as sediments. This process is called sedimentation. Understand? First, the mixture of insoluble impurities, for example, mud and water, is allowed to stand undisturbed in a beaker. Then the next stage, after some time, the mud settles down at the bottom of the container as sediments. This process is called sedimentation. Next, third stage, look at the picture given. The clean water can then be slowly poured out into a separate container without disturbing the sediments. This process is called decantation. What is decantation? The clean water can then be slowly poured out into a separate container without disturbing the sediments. This process is called decantation. Next, what is loading? The rate of sedimentation can be improved by adding special chemicals such as alum. What is the use of alum? Alum is used to improve the sedimentation. This process is called loading. Let us see how loading can be used to separate dirt particles suspended in muddy water. Look at the picture given. In the first picture, a piece of alum. Alum is a chemical substance. Look at the first picture. The white portion is a alum. A piece of alum is suspended in the beaker containing muddy water. The next stage, alum particles attach themselves to the dirt particles. The alum particles is attached themselves to the dirt particles suspended in muddy water, making them heavier. The next stage, the dirt particles are settled down at the bottom of the container. This is called loading. Dear students, take page number 131 in your science book. Removing soluble impurities. How to remove soluble impurities from water? It is more difficult to remove soluble impurities than insoluble ones. Soluble impurities, however, can be removed by evaporation or distillation. Evaporation or distillation is used to remove soluble impurities from water. First, let's learn evaporation. Look at the picture given. The solution containing soluble impurities such as common salt or sugar is heated. After some times, the water changes into water vapor, leaving the impurities behind. This process is called evaporation. The water changes into water vapor on heating. This process is called evaporation. During evaporation, the impurities leaving behind. Next, distillation is another method to remove soluble impurities from water. It involves the following steps. Look at the picture. Distillation involves the following steps. The first step, impure water is taken in a round bottom flask. Look at the picture given. The impure water is taken in a round bottom flask and heated. The next stage, on heating, water changes into water vapor. Look at the picture. In the second stage, on heating, water changes into water vapor and the impurities are left behind. The impurities are left in the flask. When water vapor passes through the condenser, the cylinder portion is a condenser. Look at the picture given. It cools and turns into water again. The third stage, pure water is collected in a flask. In the first step, impure water is taken in a round bottom flask, then heated. In the second stage, on heating, water changes into water vapor and the impurities are left in the round bottom flask. When water vapor passes through the condenser, the cylinder portion is a condenser. It cools and turns into water again. Water means liquid again. Then the third stage, pure water is collected in a flask. Look at the picture. Pure water is collected in a flask. The water collected by distillation is called distilled water. The collected water is called distilled water. The distilled water is the purest form of water and does not containing any impurities or germs. It is widely used in car batteries, injections and medicines. Understand? Next, let's learn purifying drinking water. What is the purpose of purification of drinking water? Water may contain many germs. The germs that can cause diseases. Therefore, drinking water needs to be purified. What is the purpose of purification? The purification is used to remove germs from the water. Drinking water can be purified by the following method. First one, boiling method. Second one, chlorination method. These two methods are used to purify water. Take page number 132. First one, what is boiling? One of the simplest way to purify drinking water is by boiling. Boiling means heating the water. Boiling water for about 10 minutes kill most of the germs present in water, making it safe for drinking. Boiled water should be stored in clean and covered pots and pans. What is the purposes of boiling water? Boiling means to kill the germs. Next method of purifying drinking water is chlorination. What is the chlorination? Chlorination means the process of adding chlorine tablets to the water for the purposes of killing germs. Another method of purifying water is by adding chlorine tablets. These days, chlorine tablets are easily available. Adding chlorine tablets in water kill germs and makes the water fit for drinking. This process of purifying water is called chlorination. These two methods are used to purifying drinking water. Next, how do you think people living in a city or a town get their drinking water? To make water obtained from lakes and rivers fit for drinking, it is purified in big purification plants. Before it is made available to homes, the main methods involved in the purification are sedimentation, filtration, and chlorination. Next lamp, look at the picture, purification of water. What are the steps involved in the purification of water? In the first step, water is taken, look at the picture, water is taken from the lake or pond. This water may have wood, dead animals and plants. It is run through large filters. Filter means screens to remove the large impurities. Large filter is used to remove the large impurities. In the first step of purification of water is taken from the lake or pond. This water may have wood, dead animals and plants. It is run through large filters. What's the use of the filters? Filter is used to remove the large impurities. In the second stage, a substance called alum. What is alum? Alum is a chemical substance. Is added to the water. It helps insoluble impurities to settle down. What is the use of the alum? Alum is used to improve the sedimentation process. So, a substance called alum is added to the water. It helps insoluble impurities to settle down in the second stage. In the third stage, after the impurities settle, the water is allowed to move through filters that are made of sand and gravel. In the third stage, after the impurities are settled, the remaining water is allowed to move through filters that are made of sand and gravel. In the fourth stage, chlorine is added to kill germ. In the fourth stage, chlorine is added. What is the use of the chlorine? The chlorine is used to kill the germs. Next, fifth stage, water is stored in large tanks for distribution. In the fifth stage, the remaining clean water is stored in large tanks for distribution. What is the purposes of storage of water? Storage of water is used to distribute the users. In the sixth stage, this water is allowed to run into pipelines that reach users. This is the methods involved in the purification of water. All of you understand? Today in this session, we completed lesson 10. Dear students, write down the homework. Study lesson 10 thoroughly. Thank you, dears.